if you have a really great looking resume and you have not been able to find the right fit, you're not necessarily projecting what it is that is your gift or your return on investment for the person who may be hiring you. So I tell people to do an exercise. It's two parts. One is, and this is not like an overnight thing. You need a little time to do this, but what what are the things that you absolutely are passionate about? Over and above being a CIO, because obviously there's two kinds of CIOs. We just placed one. There's CIOs that are incredibly technical, very data driven, very computer centric. And then there's CIOs who are strategists, right? So, and people will hire one or the other, but they don't tend to say, some will say, I just want to run this new ERP, or I want them to, we're going to do this implementation and I want them to run the implementation. Okay, so we need the technical guy, right? Then they'll say, okay, this person is really our business leader. They're going to understand, what does AI do for our business? What will any of the new technologies that are out there, how will that impact our business? And is it worth the investment? Different type of CIO. So what are you really passionate about, personally as well as professionally? And then what are you naturally good at? And here's where people bomb the list and tend to bomb interviews. They talk about what they've educated or trained to, which is somewhat important. But I tell people what you need to talk about is, I don't know why, but in my DNA, I just know how to do this and I'm really good at it. So, and I use my example, I tell people, I don't know why, but I just have really good spidey sense. Like, I have really good intuition, which has made me a good recruiter. Um, I can meet someone and I just sort of know, like, here's where they would fit, or here's where I think they need to work on, or whatever it is, right? So that intuition wasn't something I trained or educated to. In fact, I don't even know that you can train somebody to have good intuition. I think you either have it or you don't. And it was years later that my sister said, and it was like this random comment. She goes, "Oh my God, you have dad's intuition." And I went, "I do." I had no idea, right? So, but that's the thing, that identifying that, when I got into this business, I leaned into my intuition and my gut, and I will tell everybody the same thing. I'm a gut recruiter. So if my gut says you need to interview for this, you need to interview for this, because my gut is typically spot on. So when people start to identify that, what happens is, when you're armed when you go into the interview. So if you've interviewed a lot of places and you're not getting any traction, typically, I mean, it can be everything. You're not dressing appropriately, you don't look the part. I mean, there's a million things, right? But if you've been a CIO, likely you've been successful. I would say you got to lean into not just the piece of being a CIO, but what is it that you bring that organization that's over and above that? So that's the DNA, natural gifts, things that you're passionate about that will help to enhance the business, because there's a million CIOs out there that have that same title. So how are you going to be impactful when others can't be? So I would start there. And I'm happy to even like vet that back and forth till I go, now that I would hire.
Mhm.
Because I think that that's important, is you have somebody you can talk about that with.